The rest of what you'll hear from me is surely to be disappointing. Thank you so much. That was beautiful. I appreciate that. Yeah, so it's been about a year and a half since the book came out. A little longer than that since my whole life has changed in a pretty significant way. But well before that, I was here at San Francisco State because I told my boss I was a writer, and she was sort of struggling to find Native writers in her classroom. This was Esther Lucero. She was a teacher at the time. I was working at the Native American Health Center in Oakland, and she brought me to her classroom, and I read some garbage story. And, even while I was reading it, just felt like I was a complete fraud. And I was. And in some ways, I still am. And the feeling, I don't think, ever goes away. And me saying I still am, maybe you could argue that that's not true, but it's the feeling of it doesn't go away. Feeling like you ever deserve to be where you are. That same year, I had started writing this book, and my wife was a project director for a Native youth suicide prevention grant, and I had also told my wife I was a writer, obviously. And she was putting together a thing for the youth we brought them to Alcatraz, and we brought them up to Yurok country and did a cultural exchange. And then to UC Berkeley for an author's reading. And so I was an author. But I'd never published a thing, even though one of the many places I tried to publish was 14 Hills. But it was a year after starting to write it that I started writing this book that I was to read to Native youth who, they brought me in. I was like a jack of all trades. I did a lot of flyers. I designed way too many bad flyers, and was still doing probably data entry. But they brought me in to be with Native youth because I look like a Native youth, and so my wife had me read what I'd written up to that point, which was a year into writing this novel. And I'm going to read you something right now from the novel that I read to them that remained in the novel, and reading to them and having them react to it after seeing them not react to so much that we did for them, which, not to criticize them, it's just, it's hard to reach youth in general, especially with readings from authors. But they reacted in an emotional way, and it really spurred me on from that point. This was like 2013 at UC Berkeley. So I'm just going to read a little bit from that. Thank you all for coming out. Thank you, Carolina, for coordinating. This is from the prologue, which everyone calls an essay now, like I was bringing some new form to the novel, like include essays in a novel. That's not what I was doing at all. I just want to dispel that idea that I was just like, this is a prologue, you can do whatever you want in a prologue, so that's what I did. I wasn't trying to bring an essay form to the novel. Hard, fast. Getting us to cities was supposed to be the final necessary step in our assimilation, absorption, erasure, the completion of a 500-year-old genocidal campaign. But the city made us new, and we made it ours. We didn't get lost amid the sprawl of tall buildings, the stream of anonymous masses, the ceaseless din of traffic. We found one another, started up Indian centers, brought out our families and powwows, our dances, our songs, our beadwork. We bought and rented homes, slept on the streets, under freeways. We went to school, joined the armed forces, populated Indian bars in the Fruitvale in Oakland and in the Mission in San Francisco. We lived in boxcar villages in Richmond. We made art, and we made babies, and we made way for our people to go back and forth between reservation and city. We did not move to cities to die. The sidewalks and streets, the concrete, absorbed our heaviness. The glass, metal, rubber, and wires, the speed, the hurtling masses, the city took us in. We were not urban Indians then. This was part of the Indian Relocation Act, which was part of the Indian Termination Policy, which wasn't as exactly what it sounds like. Make them look and act like us, become us, and so disappear. But it wasn't just like that. Plenty of us came by choice, to start over, to make money, or for a new experience. Some of us came to cities to escape the reservation. We stayed after fighting in the Second World War, after Vietnam too. We stayed because the city sounds like a war, and you can't leave a war once you've been. You can only keep it at bay, which is easier when you can see and hear it near you, that fast metal, that constant firing around you, cars up and down the streets and freeways like bullets. The quiet of the reservation, the side of the highway towns, rural communities, that kind of silence just makes the sound of your brain on fire that much more pronounced. Plenty of us are urban now, if not because we live in cities, then because we live on the internet, inside the high-rise of multiple browser windows. They used to call us sidewalk Indians, called us citified, superficial, inauthentic, culturalist refugees, apples. An apple is red on the outside and white on the inside. But what we are is what our ancestors did, how they survived. We are the memories we don't remember, which live in us, which we feel, which make us sing and dance and pray the way we do. Feelings from memories that flare and bloom unexpectedly in our lives like blood through a blanket from a wound made by a bullet fired by a man shooting us in the back for our hair, for our heads, for a bounty, or just to get rid of us. When they first came for us with their bullets, we didn't stop moving, even though the bullets moved twice as fast as the sound of our screams. And even when their heat and speed broke our skin, shattered our bones, skulls pierced our hearts, we kept on. Even when we saw the bullets send our bodies flailing through the air like flags, like the many flags and buildings that went up in place of everything we knew this land to be before. The bullets were premonitions, ghosts from dreams of a hard, fast future. The bullets moved on after moving through us, became the promise of what was to come, the speed and the killing, the hard, fast lines of borders and buildings. They took everything and ground it down to dust as fine as gunpowder. They fired their guns into the air in victory, and the strays flew out into the nothingness of histories written wrong and meant to be forgotten. Stray bullets and consequences are landing on our unsuspecting bodies even now. Urban Indians were the generation born in the city. We've been moving for a long time, but the land moves with you like memory. An urban Indian belongs to the city, and cities belong to the earth. Everything here is formed in relation to every other living and non-living thing from the earth, all our relations. The process that brings anything to its current form, chemical, synthetic, technological, or otherwise, doesn't make the product not a product of the living earth. Buildings, freeways, cars, are these not of the earth? Were they shipped in from Mars, the moon? Is it because they're processed, manufactured, or that we handle them? Are we so different? Were we at one time not something else entirely? Homo sapiens, single-celled organisms, space dust, unidentifiable pre-bang quantum theory. Cities form in the same way as galaxies. Urban Indians feel at home walking in the shadow of a downtown building. We came to know the downtown Oakland skyline better than we did any sacred mountain range, the redwoods in the Oakland hills better than any other deep wild forest. We know the sound of the freeway better than we do rivers, the howl of distant trains better than wolf howls. We know the smell of gas and freshly wet concrete and burned rubber better than we do the smell of cedar or sage or even fry bread, which isn't traditional, like reservations aren't traditional. But nothing is original. Everything comes from something that came before, which was once nothing. Everything is new and doomed. We ride buses, trains, and cars across, over, and under concrete plains. Being Indian has never been about returning to the land. The land is everywhere or nowhere. So if there's a little more time, is that okay? I'm sorry to read off of my phone, but there's something that I wrote a long time ago. I don't think I submitted it to 14 Hills, but I looked at it again recently. My phone stopped working this morning, and it's a new phone. Special shout out to Art Diaz for his graciousness this morning. He's a wonderful person. He's out in the audience here. A round of applause for Art. But I'm going to read off my phone. DJ Ron. I get paid for what I do, but I never exactly been a dreamer. I'm a DJ at small bars in Oakland, so it's obviously kind of dumb what I do. But people move to what I play at least, and while the drinks might be doing the better share of the work, I'm still there before the crest of sound, pressing buttons and turning knobs, and well, I'm not proud, but I get paid a little. So I work like everyone else at a job that helps to pay the bills and allows me the funds to buy new records and gear, and allows me to spend time at bars on nights I'm not working when I'm actually working, doing the real work, which is making friends and acquaintances to let them know when I play and convince them to come listen so I have a crowd, so I keep getting paid to come back. I've always found ever since I was a kid that if you have something to look forward to, you can get through anything. The trick is finding some shit you love enough that you can look forward to it, because if you run out of that, you're fucked. I know, because it's happened to me too. And when you run out and you're just going through the motions of life with no enjoyment, you start to dig your own grave. And I don't mean like metaphorically. I think you actually start building disease, like the start of some future deadly cancer. You can pull ever closer to your vital organs and shit if you stop enjoying this life and are just making your way through without anything to look forward to. Because that's what the whole thing is set up for us to look forward and move toward that thing we're looking forward to, whether that be some future marriage or kids or house or car or retirement or enlightenment or I don't know what. Guess some great job or fame or award. I don't know what people dream about or look forward to. I just know what I look forward to, and it's not some distant future. It's just the next time I get DJ at a club or in a bar at home alone with my headphones and a blunt if I can get it, which sometimes my buddy Ron doesn't roll through for me on a weekly basis. Like when he goes out of town and doesn't tell me, he'll just not show up Monday morning when he usually comes before I go to work, the restaurant I work at, washing dishes to supplement my income. Actually, it's how I make most of my money. The DJing is the supplement. We got one of those high-powered, high-heat hoses I use with thick rubber gloves so I don't get burned, and I just stand there and fucking spray the shit out of those dishes until they're super smooth of food and ready to dry in order to go back out on the floor. And it doesn't stop the whole time I'm there at my shift, just one dish or glass or piece of silverware at a time, but I don't mind because my shift goes by and it's done and I don't have to think a single thought about work again the rest of the day, which wasn't the case where I used to work doing nonprofit stuff in downtown Oakland over there at Youth Radio, where I helped kids learn about production and broadcasting and all the shit I learned at SF State, where I graduated a million years ago. Back then, I was all serious, like something big would happen, like I'd end up in a studio recording big timers. But this was analog recording when I was there, and that shit all became irrelevant on me, like overnight it felt. I stayed in those dorms, those old military plus old missionary haunted-ass buildings with 3 other dudes who dreamed the same dream as me. What is it about being young and dumb? It's just dream attenuation, like what you do to sound if it gets too loud. You realize when you get older you were dreaming too loud, so you make it smaller. So you know you can get there or at least near it. After I graduated, I decided I just wanted to make music. I got near it because even if that just ended up looking like putting other people's music together seamlessly in the dark so drunk people did never think the songs ended, so they'd stay and keep drinking. That's why they paid me what they paid me, which wasn't much, and the drinks were free. Tonight I'm going to this warehouse party with my buddy Ron. Yeah, it's the same Ron who sells me weed. We're actually friends and don't just pretend to be when he comes over to sell me weed. I don't know who's playing tonight. I just wanted to go out with it. It being one of my friends' sets, and just do something Ron wanted to do, because Ron was always coming to my shows. So, I'm trying to be a good friend and be reciprocal or whatever. Actually, my DJ name is DJ Ron because of Ron. And I know it's hella plain and dumb sounding, but it seemed funny at the time that I made it up. And Ron thought it was too, and we were high and had just becoming good friends, so that seemed to seal it. Plus, now that I'm somewhat known, enough to get regular gigs, I can't change it because I would lose business. Because people know me as DJ Ron and show up if they see my name on a flyer at a bar. So I'm stuck with DJ Ron, which is fine and stupid. Me and Ron were at SF State together. He got his degree in sound engineering too. We got into selling weed at first illegally and now legally to clubs, so he obviously made it the better choice, right? I'll never forget this one night when we were there at SF State. We climbed over the walls of the zoo and tried to see what the animals would do when they're not being watched. They do the same thing because it's not the people watching, but the cages that make them how they are. Except one tiger was like circling his perimeter in this way that seemed to mean something more. And Ron was like, tiger circling its cage to know its cage better. I didn't think much of it then, but the thought came up, still comes up, like it means something enough to keep being revealed over time, circling our cages to know them better. Or I don't know. Thank you.